Good morning, everyone. See, I'll tell you something, huh? When we used to have 150 people, when we used to have 150 people there, we could not handle the sound. Now you're double, right? So, but don't worry, I will. Don't think that this is your limit. I will ensure that it goes double, right? So we will try to push your limits, huh? So since nobody is here to introduce me, only to lift me from here there to here, so I will introduce myself, right? So. So, my name is LIJIL Lakshman. You're already attempting to double the limits. Huh? I'm your IDT faculty, right? So, I'll tell you what I do otherwise. Right? You can call me as a full-time practicing chartered accountant. And though in my heart I'm a full-time teacher, but with my time I'm a part-time teacher. So that's how it works. So. But let me tell you again, so I run a full-time firm. I'm a partner in a firm called LDs and Company. You don't have to remember the name now, because I will make sure that you will remember the name throughout, because that's my examples. So I'm also very committed towards my firm, so I will not miss any chance to market my firm. So no worries on that. So I will do that. By the time classes are done, all of you would know where my firm is, what work we do. So any chance, any of you wanted to refer the work, I will ensure that it happens. I have my previous batches doing that to me already, so it worked. Okay. Anyway, so my headquarters of the firm it's a firm that I co-founded with couple of my partners. After I qualified, I worked in an industry. So I generally used to tell my students that people look at what are the options that they have after qualifying to be a chartered accountant. And I used to tell them that, look at me, I've done all that. You have an option to work in the industry, I've done that. And I quit the industry, I started my practice. You can also have an option to be a tutor, I'm doing that. You can also invest in firms and run businesses, I'm doing that as well. So I'm the package that you can look at for that matter. Anyhow, so my headquarters is in Cochin, right, Kerala. So of course, so my mother tongue is So now you will think, what will I do with my Tamil? பிரச்சனமே கிடையாது, நான் நல்லா தமிழ் பேசுவேன். ஆனா என் தமிழ் வந்து ரொம்ப கெட்ட தமிழ். ஆனால் எனக்கு வெக்கமே கிடையாது அதுக்கு. So doesn't matter. அப்படியே பேசிட்டு இருப்போம். So who cares, right? Every batch teaches me a little bit of Tamil, and I make sure that their Tamil goes a little bad. So that's how it goes. Okay, so no problem. So is there any non-Tamils here? I mean, like சுத்தமா தமிழ் தெரியாது அந்த மாதிரி? 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so what we will do is we will keep our major discussions in English, so we will be neutral for that. However, all that kuti things we can put it in our language, right? Okay, so and I've learned Tamil because I studied here, Chennai. So after my 12th, I moved here to do my CA. So I've been here, like maybe few of you have done that. So that's what I also did. So look what it took me to back to Chennai again. So that's the whole idea. Anyway, so that's about me. I practice mainly, do teaching like this. I teach in like proper South Indian. I teach in Telugu state, I teach in Tamil Nadu, I teach in Karnataka, and I teach in Kerala. So full South. So I've reached the point wherein I speak fluent Malayalam. I mean, like good Malayalam, and fluent Ketta Tamil, and then I can understand Telugu now because I've been doing a lot of classes there. So I'm picking up a bit of Telugu also from them. I'll ensure that I spoil Telugu for them. So that's what I'm doing now in Andhra classes. Yeah. So that's it. So, but you can converse with me in any language you like, and I will try to spoil that language well. So, okay, that's it. So GST is what I'm going to teach you, whatever indirect taxes you're going to learn. And it's a very passion project for me. I wanted to see, my biggest win would be not that you guys learn cover to cover, but somehow if I could instill that love towards the subject, and by end of this classes you guys would feel like, okay, GST, nice. So if you feel that, that'll be my objective, right? So I'll give you a lot more in detail about why everything in GST happened as such. And it's a special week for GST. So, couple of days back, we all celebrated CA Day. So I was celebrating 3 days at once at home because it's CA Day. I had to celebrate, so my office was doing that, and it was also GST Day because on 1st July 2017, that's when GST was introduced. And I got all the, bouquets and stuff like that. And I had to celebrate a 3rd day because I'm married to a doctor. So I had to collect all the gifts and give it to her and say that Happy Doctor's Day. So that's how it worked for me. So it's a good day for me. Anyway, so we are in that week, 8 years of GST, and that's a long time. So I used to take classes 2018, and I used to tell my students back then that, look at GST is not yet a complete law. So as and when you learn, it's keep changing. That's what I used to tell them. Now today, if you look at GST, it's not like that. It's a settled law. We have even litigation. As we speak, during the breaks, I will have to draft replies to notices. I'll have to also, fix appointments to, because I'm a practicing CA. So I'll have to fix appointment with offices because they're sending notices to our clients. Okay, so a lot of things are back and happening. So it has become to proper, litigation stage wherein you could now argue on GST. You have a litigation stage. So these are the practices that are coming up fresh. And this is a lot of advantage with GST. The major advantage is that, if you look at income tax, okay. So income tax also, with the new income tax bill, we might look at it different. But with the existing income tax that you would learn, we always used to have a struggle in terms of competing in the industry when you're in practice. Reason being, now a lot of chartered accountants who have been practicing in income tax, they've been practicing for 30 years. And they've been dealing with same income tax law, analyzing it, interpreting it. I cannot go there and then tell another client that, see, that 30-year-old man who've been eating, drinking, and then sleeping with the income tax, I'll be able to perform better than him. No. I used to tell that I will handle technology better. He might not be able to. That's only my advantage. Okay, I would tell them that, okay, he might not understand faceless assessment, I would understand. He might not understand Excel sheets the way I understand. So, if you have any technical doubts, I will ask him, okay, and tell you. So, I will be able to better communicate. This is how I used to snatch work from seniors. So, that is not the way that we do with GST. GST per se come to us because GST has been only there for 8 years. And if you look at the litigation part of GST, when I say litigation, when there is a dispute between the person who got a notice from GST department. There was a fancy number that I'll give you. I'm just trying to give you a perspective of GST. So once GST had a notice to send to an industry, wherein they had set one company, they had given a notice of 27,000 crores. One notice. 27,000 crores. Now, if somebody is writing a reply to that, they should laugh and then write reply to that, right? 27,000 crores GST demand notice. And they wrote the letter saying that our turnover is 2,500 crores. So, what are you saying? Where is 27,000 crores? Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll take the key of my company, give it to you. Please take it. So, these are the things that is happening in GST, right? And whenever you have this kind of notices, people would not pay. They will say that I will go to litigation. I will fight with it. And who's going to fight together with the clients? You and I are going to do that. Right? When you're fighting with the client for 27,000 crores, something will fall out, no? Put it in your pockets. That's your piece. Right? So that's how, GST would feed you as well. Right? So that's how you should think. So GST is getting very popular and GST is going to make a living for some of you. If that does what it intends to do, then I'll be the happiest. Okay. So I'll tell you now from the perspective of intermediate. Okay. So what is that you learn? Now in chartered accountancy, what they have done, they decided not to teach taxes to foundation students. They said, okay, we don't want to teach taxes to foundation students. Let them earn at least foundation. Then they get the right to learn taxes. Maybe that's what the thought process. So you all are there where you can learn the taxes to the core. Now they're splitting the syllabus between intermediate and final. And in your intermediate, what they have done is that income tax and indirect taxes, GST, they put it into one single paper. Okay, they call it as taxation and goes to group 1. 50-50. For a long time, it was 60-40. Finally, we got the equality we deserved. We got 50% weightage. Okay, they understood that, okay, now all the new people want to practice in GST. So let us give that 50% equality. So it happened finally. So we have 50% and you would all understand that the level of, the learning that you have to do to get the other 50%, compared to that, this would look much, much easier. So this 50% covers around 15 chapters in your ICA material. If you look at 15 chapters is what they have given. But for me, it is 9 chapters. I used to tell that it is only 9 chapters, not 15 chapters, because procedures, they split it into 6 chapters and then put it there. So for me, it's like 1 chapter, like procedure. So The core learning happens with the first 8 chapters. What they have done is, they said like you learn GST enough in your intermediate so that after finishing intermediate, you will go into a articleship firm, right? You might come to LDS and company. So then I might hand over a GST return to you. When you see a GST return, you should not ask me, what is this? That's the learning they're expecting from you. Okay, you get familiarized with everything in GST, how the basic GST computation works. That's the objective that you have. So that you ask the right question. You will ask questions, ask the right question. Okay, so that's the preparation that you have. And during the internship, you're supposed to learn a lot of things that I'm going to teach you theoretically with some logic and practical intent in terms of your practice. Once you do that, then at final level, we have 100 marks separate paper for indirect taxes. Okay, that's where you will learn GST, not only GST, you will also learn something called as customs, right? So in final level, 15 chapters in GST becomes 24 chapters, right? All the 15 that you learn here will get a revamped shape, like part 2. Everything with something extra, right? That is there. Plus, you will learn the entire litigation, like I said. Now, I don't need to teach you how to write a letter back to a GST officer unless you know what is GST, right? I'll teach you GST here. You will see some notices there. I will teach you the GST notices in full at final level. That's how. Then, after you learn how to do everything about GST, you can go and practice in it. That's the thought process. Okay, so this is how they have structured the law. And they thought, okay, maybe while you practice GST, you will also have to learn a little bit of customs and introduction. That's there at final level, not at inter level. This is how they have structured the syllabus. I stole the battery from the other mic, so it worked. Anyway, so I was telling you that what in indirect taxes you have. So in income tax, where are you standing in income tax? Income tax has started for you, right? So you've learned till capital gains. Income tax experts. Okay, so you would learn after you learn all the heads of income. When I say capital gains, did you jump directly to capital gains or you've gone through? No. Salaries are done. PGBB is done. Okay, so house property is also done. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so now let me compare you with income tax. In income tax, after you learn each heads of income. See, one good thing about income tax from a faculty perspective is that if somebody is teaching you income from house property, a lot of faculties take up that as the first topic in terms of heads. They can give you questions. They can give you questions just for income from house property and then work out and stuff like that. Once you learn all the heads of income, then you move to an area called as computation of total income, right? In GST, it's the opposite. Okay, it's the opposite. That's where it works. It's like the movie wherein they'll show you the climax first. Then they'll give you, okay, it happened, likewise, right? It's like that. So in GST, you learn what is your GST computation first. In the first chapter itself, I'll teach you that. Then I'll teach you like, okay, I remember the first part of this computation. These are the extra topics that you have to learn it. So it's kind of a reverse learning. And if you look at income tax and GST in terms of learning, what you can expect. When you learn your income tax, you can learn each head separately, each chapter separately. Like say, for example, a computation in salary will not get merged with a computation in house property. These are independent. But GST is not like that. GST is a cumulative learning. Okay, so it's like a battery recharge. You know? First, you're learning 10% of GST. Second chapter questions will be first chapter plus second chapter. Third chapter question is first, second, third. It is like cumulative learning. Okay. So it's very, very important that you stay connected with every chapter. Okay. It's not necessary that I will go in that order, but there are few chapters which you can only learn cumulatively. So first 8 chapters, that's what I'm telling. That's why 8+1 I put it in initially. So first 8 chapters will give you an overall understanding of what is GST. Overall understanding what is GST. So that 8 chapters all will be mixed. So on 8th chapter, first I'll say, remember what I told in 3rd chapter? That's how I'll start. Okay, so that's the learning that's the small difference you have, right? In your questions, okay, you know that you have an idea how your taxation paper comes. So your 3 hours of taxation paper, do they mix income tax and GST and ask question? No, they don't. That's the strange part. They'll ask you separate questions. Separate for indirect taxes, separate for direct taxes. Reason because the one who has to value should know both, no? Otherwise, right? Hey, you give me an income tax paper to value, I will have to ask ChatGPT to that. Okay, so I will have to ask a lot of questions. But if you give me indirect tax papers to value, I would do that. So there are 2 different experts. So it's a very strange paper that you'll have to write. Okay, like your FM and SM. Very similar structure. What they'll do is that they'll give you one question bank, wherein they'll have both questions of GST as well as income tax. And they'll give you 2 answer sheets. And say that, I'll give you 3 hours. Write both in that 3 hours. So if you want, you can write only GST for 3 hours. They don't restrict you. Only thing is that you'll have to go back once again to write income tax. So you don't want to do that, right? You are not going to do with just GST, right? So you will have to manage your time writing both papers separately. That's the structure. So whatever structure that you have in your indirect tax, or whatever structure that you have in your intermediate papers will be followed by both income tax as well as GST, which means that when I say 50 marks is for GST, out of that 30% would be MCQs, right? So it is 15 marks MCQ that comes in. There used to be a time wherein people could buy 1000 MCQs in GST. We'll prepare a book, then you will learn all the 1000, then something will be repeated. Gone are the days. Now they do is that they will give you a paragraph, case study. You study the case study. Then I'll ask you 5 questions which has nothing to do with the case study that I've given you. So this is how. So I used to tell people that the best thing you want to do to save time in your examination, first you read the question, then you read the case study, then read the question and answer. That's how you will finish, right? So this is how you will have to do. So there's a case study, then there's an MCQ. There are a couple of 2 marks MCQs that comes in. 15 marks done. Then they ask you descriptive questions for 35 marks. And what they do with descriptive question is that they'll ask you 15-mark question as a compulsory question. In that, they will split. They don't ask one single question with 15 marks in GST, surprisingly and fortunately. So your maximum limit would be 10 marks. They'll ask one single question, 10 marks, which will have all 8 chapters that I'm talking about mixed, like total income. So they'll ask something about the first chapter, supply, something charge, time of supply, place of supply, valuation, input tax credit, a lot of chapters are there. All these chapters they'll test. But it's all going to be computational question. But to know that computation, you'll have to go through a lot of provisions, right? That's your ultimate objective. right? To write that. One good thing is that 90% of the questions, the format that I'm going to give you on the day 1 classes is going to be the format for that compulsory quest. So you know that. So you start with, okay, my format is ready. Okay, at least 10% done. Now I'll have to fill in. Okay, I can make mistakes. And in GST, you can only make 50% of mistakes. Because the question mostly answers only 2 things. Is it taxable or not taxable? Only that. Okay, so you can even make a good guess and then put it there, right? So you need to be having a lucky day then. Anyway, so that's the structure that you have. There's a compulsory question, 15 marks, 10 plus 5, they will do it. So you're still left with 20 marks, but they'll give you 3 questions. They say that. I know that there are few procedural chapters, so I need to put a theory question for people who love theory. Okay, if you want to learn the whole thing. So for them, I'm giving you an additional question called as a additional optional question. If you pick out of the 1, 3, you need to pick only 2 and then write. In theory question, they say that, okay, it's not possible to study all the theories in the world, and that's not my intention. So what will I do? In theory question, even though the question is for 10 marks, I will give you additional question for 15 marks inside that itself. Then let's say that in this theory, out of 15, write only 2. Which means they'll give you 3, then write only 2. So you get a lot of options there, right? On that, it's 3 questions, only pick 2. If you pick theory, then also you get like, out of 3, pick only 2 and then write. So a lot of flexibility, right? Looks like a nice paper, right? Yeah. So this is what you do. So all your preparations, we're going to go like possibly 100 hours of our discussion towards this 3 questions. That's all that we're going to do. Okay. To get these 3 questions right, we're going to go through, I'm going to give you a book. We are giving you a color chart book, possibly, coming up. Then there is a question bank that I'm going to give you. So put together about, you can say 550 pages, which is your 220 page color chart book, including both of your modules in your ICA material, spaced it into 220 pages color. Then there is a question bank, everything from ICI, everything that I've drafted, put it into one just question bank, which is around 330 pages, put together 550 pages, need to answer this 3 questions. That's the preparation level that we're going to do, right? So that's what is our subject. So let's get started with our subject. So to ensure that you are having the foundation, very strong foundation, I'm going to spare substantial time giving you that initial, understanding why, why did they do this kind of thing. So that click, that has to happen. Because I strongly believe the mode of learning has to change the moment you enter into becoming a CA student. The learning of, something, especially taxes, like theory, is not what it is suggested. The primary reason, what government collects as taxes in a month? What is the largest amount of tax collected by GST department in a month, in 1 month? The largest amount of GST collected in 1 month in last year alone. Highest amount in 1 month. How much will be that GST? It is 2 lakh crores. 2 lakh 0,000 crores. That much is 1 month collection. In a year, if you multiply, you're talking about 24 lakh crores. This, to collect 24 lakh crores in a year, I'm creating provisions. Do I want people who are going to support that, by heart the provisions, or understand and implement it for him? Understand and implement it. Who are the one who is going to understand and implement? It's you and me, right? We are the one who is going to do it. So we should never learn taxes as a theory topic. Understand why. What is their thought process? There is a double advantage that we have for it. One, we can understand and then implement. Or if occasionally your client wants to save, you can understand and then find loopholes in it. Okay. Then who will be happy? Your client will be happy. And you want your client happy, right? Yes. Then only you will also be happy. Oh, that's the process. So you need to know which level you want to work with. Yeah. Anyway, so you will have to approach it like that. So for that, I'm going to do a lot of fundamentals. But to start and then reach at indirect taxes is going to be very easy for me because you guys are already income tax experts. A lot of classes, I had to introduce taxes because if I'm the first one coming in, for foundation, there's no tax. So I'll have to tell what is taxes, why taxes. Now I don't need to explain that. Instead, I can ask questions. You don't like questions, no? Nobody likes it. No batch in the world has ever told me that please ask. Please. I'm waiting for you to ask me questions. But my questions has one feature attached to it. My question answer is like A.R. Rahman song. I'll tell you why. Because in every A.R. Rahman song, there is a chorus. The main singer is me. There is a chorus. Nobody knows what chorus is singing. They're doing something. Nobody knows what it is. Okay, they're singing something. Okay, that's all we know. But we feel good, right? Okay, there is something going on in the background. That's nice. I want the same thing. When I'm asking a question, I want a chorus answer. I feel like, okay, somebody's answering. Very good. But is anybody's answering specifically? I don't know. That's enough. Okay, I need only chorus answers. That's okay, right? Yes, okay. So I'll ask the first question, the primary question that I should have asked if I introduced taxes, which is, what is taxes? You didn't like the question. I'll change the question. Don't worry. Why taxes? Tax why? Perfect. See, perfect chorus answer. It is revenue for the government. Right? See? I will inform A.R. Rahman, if you want 320 people for chorus, come to KS Academy. So, it's revenue for the government. Okay, so that takes me to the next question. Why would government need so much of revenue? They have so much of expenditures. Correct. Okay, correct. There's so much of expenditure. Can we list some major expenditure government has? Infrastructure, primary one. Infrastructure. Let me put 1 point for infrastructure. Say, we have bridges, we have, everything that's going on. If you look at in India, from the time you were born, you would have heard India is what kind of country? Developing country. When I was born also, they told me the same. India is a developing. It is developing for the last so many years. To become a developed country, we need to have infrastructure. So they need to spend. So there are roads in front of me, there are metro projects, there are bridges going on, and I didn't pay for that. Okay. So my only payment is that I be in the traffic patiently while the construction is going on. So somebody is paying for that. So government has huge expenditure for infrastructure. Somebody said, what are the other expenditure? Defense. Very good point. Defense, right? Defense is huge spend. Then education, like subsidies, functionaries, government employees. Okay, so my mother is a government employee. She gets salary. Government pays that. So government has an expenditure for that. Then there are, what are the other expenditure? Hospitals, like healthcare, public distribution. Like say, for example, if we go to ration shops, right? We get rice for a very low price. The farmers are not selling rice for that price. The government is paying the balance. So government has so much of expenditure, for sure. And you said taxes are revenue to this expenditure. My next question is taxes the only revenue for the government? I'm asking this question because if you look at income tax, 1961, right? If you look at Customs Act, 1962, okay, so the tariff code came in 1975. If you analyze service taxes came only way after your 1990s, 94 it came in. And if you look at GST, that came only in 2000. So we got independence 47 onwards and we need to spend since then, right? So of course taxes was never the only revenue. There used to be other revenues. Can you list some other major revenue? Fines, sir. I didn't wear the helmet. Police collected 500 rupees from me. That's another expenditure. Yes, that's So that's an income, but that's not the major one. Like that's not. Correct. So you're giving the correct point. Government companies you've mentioned. Now the correct term would be public sector undertakings. PSU we call it, right? There are government run businesses wherein when that businesses makes profit, who gets the profit share? Government only gets. Say for example, Indian Railway. Tomorrow Indian Railway makes profit of 10,000 crores. Whose pocket it goes to? Government only, right? Very recently there was a big news that State Bank of India, even though you and I can also own a piece of State Bank of India because it's a listed company, major share of State Bank of India is still with whom? Government of India. State Bank of India had gone back and said, government, we made so much of profit, we don't know what to do with it. Can I distribute some dividend for you? Government said, yes, please distribute. Okay, this is 6,000 crores for you. Like what? Yeah, 6,000 crores is the dividend that was given by SBI to government. So there are public sector undertakings that are making profits, giving back the dividend to the government. So that's big expenditure. But what happened is that we had a shift of the way in which country was run since independence till 1990. Okay, if you're from foundation stream, you would have learned this. 1990, we had a very big economic crisis for the country. The primary reason why we had this economic crisis is that our public sector undertakings were doing good or not doing good? Not doing good. So we understood that's not the way that we wanted to progress the country. So we decided that we will allow competition by changing the policy, the economic policy, by introducing three major pillars of economic policy. LPG, right? LPG, liberalization. Yeah, so you've learned this so much. So this particular three things, what did it did with the public sector undertakings? Did they start making more profit or they started having competition? Competition. BSNL was only enjoying the telecom network system. Suddenly Airtel came, okay, right? Idea came, Vodafone came, so many people came. Finally, Jio came, story over. Okay. So this is how it has happened. Now, where is BSNL? Very less number of profits, like making losses at the point. Likewise, every industry, be it banking, be it insurance, likewise they allowed liberalization. Anybody can come and then do it. They said, global brands, do you want to come in India? I will allow something called as FDI, foreign domestic investment. Come, bring money here, invest. Okay, we will allow that. So we allowed all this. What happened with all of this? It happened that whatever profit monopolistically was made by the government, what happened to all the PSU giving dividends? PSU said, losses, no dividend for you. Are you guys understanding? This is what happened. But I still need to spend. My bridge is half done. What will I do? I need more money. Then the government said, this is not working. We need to have a plan B. What is plan B? Okay, we will have plan B, C, D, E, F. Lot of taxes. That's what we did. So 1994 we said, we will start taxing services also now. We are not having enough revenue. Okay, we said, not enough, I will include more and more taxes. Now, the major contributor towards revenue happened to be taxes. More and more taxes came in. That's the starting point of taxes in India, wherein the taxes became the core revenue collection mechanism for the country. Now what happened is that every year, government will have to plan their expenditure and then come up with something called as a budget. Right? Have you learned costing chapter called budgeting? Not yet, right? Yeah. I don't know whether you have it in Inter now, but then if it's there, you will learn. Yeah. So every year, the government comes up with, when I say government, both central government as well as state government, they both has revenue. So both of them will come and then plan their expenditure and then come up with a budget. So we call the budget of the central government as union budget, right? In this union budget, see, budget, is it something that is only specifically applicable to governments, or can a private company also make, or another public company also make? Will Reliance also make a budget? Yes, budget is universal, right? If you want to plan your month, you might also make a budget. Okay, my spend on this should be less because my pocket money is getting lower. So you would also make a budget like that. So Reliance is also making a budget. Government of India is also making a budget. Now my question is, are these budgets same? Now let's look at Reliance budget for a moment to give you the perspective of what is taxes in the whole scenario of the government. Now you look at Reliance budget for a moment. What is the objective of Reliance budget? What is that the Reliance wants to plan in their budget? Next year I should make more profit. Right? Okay, so I want you to now think like an accountant and then think about your T-shaped P&L account. Right? Okay, think about your T-shaped P&L account. Let's think about the statement-based P&L account. Statement-based P&L account. So on the P&L account, profit becomes what kind of an area? Last or on the top? Last. So in the industry, we call this profit in some fancy name. We call this it. In a P&L account, this is the bottom line. Bottom line. So instead of, I'm a fancy CEO, I don't want to talk about profit in the term of profit. So I would ask them, what's the bottom line in your company? Okay. So they would say, what's the profit? Then they would ask, what is your top line? What does that they mean? Revenue. What's your revenue? So next time you meet a industry veteran or somebody from the industry, don't ask them what's your profit and what is your revenue. Ask, what's the bottom line in your company? What's the top line? Okay, so you can go to the next tea shop and also ask, what's your bottom line? Okay, don't do that. Okay, so now coming back to our discussion, in Reliance kind of a private wealth-oriented company, their objective is to maximize profit. Last year I made this much of profit. This year I want to make more profit, more share price, more wealth to my shareholders. This is the thought process. Very simple. To make more profit, what should they do with their revenue? They should increase their revenue. So they'll say that, hey, all my managers, last year you made 1 lakh crores. This year you make 10,000 crores more. This is the I'll tell them. Right? This is what you will learn in your process called budgeting. Okay, in your costing. Now, to make more profit, what should I do with that in between? Top line, bottom line. In between, what do you have? Expenditure. What should you do? Reduce the expenditure. This is their budget. A private, wealth-oriented, profit-oriented company's budget is what? Maximize profit, maximize revenue, reduce the expenditure, minimize the expenditure. This is their plan. Compare this with government's budget. What will be their objective? Their primary objective is welfare. Now think like an accountant and then tell me, even the government prepares a P&L account, right? Revenue statement they'll have to prepare, right? So what will be their objective? What is that their plan would be like? What item in this statement like P&L account they will target? What is that they want to do? Do they want to maximize profit? No. Their objective is welfare. They don't want to do that. Do they want to maximize revenue to maximize profit? No. Do they want to minimize expenditure? No. What is their objective? Maximize expenditure. They want to spend more. Now, that's why you would find our finance ministers, after finance ministers, every budget they would say that our budget is too good. Why? We are spending 10% more. Can you tell that in a company? Can you tell that at home? Hey, my budget is more. I spent 10% more last. You cannot say that. But government budget is always spending more. Now, to spend more, you need revenue. You need money to spend, right? Where do you get this money from? Taxes. So can I increase the taxes as I like so that I could get more and more revenue? No, I cannot do that. Why? People will not vote you to power next time. Okay, you increase tax, no? Come, 5 years you will come, no? I'll show you what I can do. Common man's power, right? We will. So what they have to do? They have to plan, manage their taxes, at the same time spend more money. How do they do that? What if my expenditure planning is more? I cannot stop spending because I'm a, what country? Developing country. I cannot stop spending, then I will always become developing country like it has been forever in your lifetime and my lifetime. It's been like that. So we need to stop, we need to reach. Now they're saying that 2050 will become developed country. This is their target. So we need to have that. So we need to keep spending. But taxes are not sufficing. What will I do? I will borrow. For the differences, I would borrow. I could borrow from other international organizations, other countries. I could even do other plannings like, I have some asset, I can sell it. Government says that, I have some asset. What asset do you have? I have some shares in SBI. Why don't I sell it off? I have some shares in LIC. I will sell it off. BSNL shares are available with no use. Let me sell it off. This is how they do disinvestment in companies to plan their revenue. So this is the whole planning that they do. India announces what kind of a budget? A surplus budget with more revenue than expenditure, or a deficit budget. So we call this as fiscal deficit. But also, budget has to always look at, my deficit should not be at an alarming level. It should not be really high, right? So then people will have an issue. They will change the, government if the fiscal deficit is going on, and they will put people like Trump into power. Too many fiscal deficit in US. So they're saying, let me put others into power. Then they will mess up the whole thing. Now, then we'll change them again. That's the whole democracy stuff. Anyway, so you come back to the understanding that taxes is fitting into this whole idea of government budget. Now, every time government plans a budget, to plan their expenditure, what is that they have to have? Some planning of their revenue. Suppose government feels like, to spend more money, I need little more money. To make more money, I might have to change something in taxes. Are you guys understanding? And taxes are backed by a tax law, which is an act passed in the parliament. So I have a tax law that is passed in the parliament. So I need to change together with the budget whatever tax law that I have already passed. That is why, together with something called as a budget, they come up with something called as a finance act. So that I can take this into the parliament, discuss, and to make my revenue possible for the next year, I could change all my tax law and then make it better. Are you guys understanding? That's why every year in taxes, in CA students term, we learn something called as an amendment. And this all comes because of the reason called as Finance Act. And that is coming because I wanted to plan my budget differently for next year. Are you guys understanding? This is a structure of the taxes law that happens. So every year you will have this. Again, that's part and parcel of our budget revenue. So you should understand that taxes should not be learned without thinking about it. So government is thinking, how can I increase my revenue? At the same time, not to be unfair to the businesses, the people. Because I have to balance between these two. So every provision, government have thought about it like this. Okay, I don't want to have a backfire, but I still wanted to ensure that people are not evading taxes. They would have done it like this. You guys understanding the overall structure of it? So, taxes per se are of two types. Okay, now, broadly, taxes can be classified into two types. Okay, what are those two types of taxes? Very tough question. Direct taxes and indirect taxes. Okay, give me examples of direct tax and indirect tax. Very tough question again. Direct tax example, income tax. Indirect tax example, GST. Very simple. Okay, so that's your syllabus, right? So, the first and foremost, look at where I have reached and where I'm going in terms of my discussion. I started off by saying what is taxes, and I established we need taxes, we need amendments in taxes, the budget. Now I'm telling that what are the type of taxes. Now what we will do, since you have learned something called as direct taxes or income tax, I will give you an introduction to indirect taxes in comparison with whatever you have learned in direct taxes. Okay, shall we do that? So your learning will become a little more easier. You can always compare, and I can also tell you why this is different or why this is same. Okay, what is the thought process of these two being different? What is the understanding of these two things being different? Once we do that, that will be the last time we will talk about direct taxes. Okay, it will be done from there. Then we will only focus on indirect taxes. Then we will introduce all the indirect taxes, and then we will focus only on GST. That's the structure in which we want to go. With me? Okay. Now I'll tell you a bit of understanding about how you wanted to write your notes, how you want to prepare, carry something from the classes. Okay, so I always used to say that your notes are your inventory from the classes. Right? So that's the asset that you carry back. Right? So you should create enough notes, but I also know that sometimes there are students who might not be able to do both of these tasks parallelly. Like when I'm listening, I cannot copy. When I'm copying, I cannot listen. For those people, what I have done is that I have prepared, a structure which works for everyone. If you like to copy examples and then keep everything noted down, so revise with it, you're happy to do. People are there. They like, or they keep themselves engaged while they copy, make notes and stuff. Running notes are the great tools for you to carry. That's one thing. Second, if at all you don't want to refer all those, I have actually, since now we are in a technology age, whatever I write on my iPads, which can be converted into PDF, which I have already done. So I have converted everything that I write, or anything new I write, I can always convert that, and I put it in a folder in the website, which is freely accessible. So if you want to like plan ahead also, like say, no, I don't want to refer it later. I want to refer while the classes are going on. I say, no worries. You go take a printout of that and go. Just refer, tick, do the audit of whatever is correct or not. Correct. Okay, matching. You can do that. Okay, so either of them you're free to do. Okay, so I'll give you all of that, including the question bank and everything will be there with you. So whatever PDFs that I'm showing here, this is the one that you have to learn for your examination. I might have little extra being taught, examples and things to get your understanding correct, which either you can refer from the PDFs. Okay, I would not recommend you to refer the PDFs in the classes, because I believe that classes needs to maintain its decorum. So ideally, your mobile phone should not be with you. That's my only request, and that's the only thing that I would tell my students to do. Because I feel like if I could distance to my phone, which rings every 15 minutes from my office, and pick it up only when my breaks are done, that's the commitment that I want to give it to the classes, and I expect that from you, right? So it might be ringing when you're in your pockets also. So I always recommend, I don't keep it in my pocket for that reason. So I keep it always somewhere away. So you can keep it in your bags. That's the best place to have your mobile phones to be in. So while the classes, but in the breaks, be lavish about it. Text everyone back saying that, okay, I'm in the break. Do you want to chat for 15 minutes? Because that's the cutoff time. Okay, so do that. Okay, so that's the only thing that we have as a policy. And also I'll tell you, I know that, people will have this confusion while the classes are going on, because I also sat there, so I know the mindset. So we will have an idea of, I wanted to give you an idea of the breaks, how the breaks would work. My maximum one stretch is 2 hours. So on one stretch, I will go 2 hours, unless like 1 hour, 59th minute, I'm doing last part of the question, then I'll request, can I go another 5 minutes? You give me the permission, I'll go for that and finish. Otherwise, 2 hours is the maximum. Sometimes if I feel 1.5 hours, then we'll take a break. Okay, we'll take a solid break and then come back. That's the start. Since it's all full day classes of ours, so we decide our schedule. So we would decide our schedule. That's the plan, right? So we don't have to follow the thing. So as in we take that. So 2 hours, if I'm extending and I'm so much immersed with the topic and I don't realize 2 hours, then you should say, sir, 2 hours. 2 hours. But that does not mean you should keep a count of it. 2 hours timer on. No, don't do that. Okay, anyway, so that's the thought process about our classes and structure. Okay, so with this we can start. So for the time being, since you don't have the printouts or anything, I'll give you a little bit of time initially to copy on a few things. Okay, but I don't need you to copy anything that I show on the PDF, but I'll show a lot that I've handwritten or I might write in the classes. That alone you might want to copy, and I'll give you time for that. Okay, so we started off the first discussion. That tax discussion was just an introduction. We started off with the first discussion. What's the difference between direct tax and indirect taxes? That's our first set of discussion that we had. A separate notebook always suggested, right? Alright, so our first discussion for us to carry and then have that understanding properly. This will act as a basis for a lot of our further discussion that is going to happen, right? Which means if you understand the basis, it will become very easy for you to understand anything further. I told about cumulative learning, no? Okay, so the first thing that I've started off by asking you was that, what are the examples of direct tax and indirect tax? And I've written whatever is required for me. Direct tax example is income tax. I'm going to leave this anyway, so no further discussion. Indirect tax examples, GST, customs duty. I told you at final level you will learn GST and Customs duty. Customs duty is also an indirect tax. But in bracket I've written a little more indirect taxes like service tax, excise duty, value added taxes, central sales tax, CST and VAT. Okay, value added taxes in central sales tax. Now I've written it in bracket in different color because these are not applicable today. Okay, these are all removed and merged into GST. Okay, why, how and all that we will discuss later. With me? Okay. Now the first most important question that I have. What is the meaning of direct tax? And what is the meaning of indirect tax? Or the question can be reframed like this. Why income tax is called as direct tax and GST is called as indirect tax? Yeah. Easiest answer. Direct tax is directly collected. Indirect tax is very tough answering that. Okay. Even though that answer seems to be correct, but that's little more further understanding that I should say. Why income tax is called as direct taxes? You're saying that it is directly collected. But I've given you some more bases in which you can analyze it. Burden of tax. Yes. Textbook answer is coming. Burden of taxes can be shifted in indirect taxes. Cannot be shifted in goods. You remember the textbook. Very good. So, burden of taxes can be shifted. Who's shifting to whom? What they're shifting? Indirect taxes. Okay. So, we can also analyze this and say that in terms of direct taxes, impact of taxes and incidence of taxes. Impact of taxes and incidence of taxes be on one single person. Or we can say levy and collection. Both of them are the same thought. Impact and incidence, which means the person to whom taxes are levied and the person ultimately paying the taxes. In income tax, it becomes single person. Say, if I'm paying income tax, the levy is on me, I only pay. Right? But indirect taxes, when it comes to impact and incidence, or levy and collection, it becomes two separate persons. Right? Say, you are going and buying goods or services. You would end up paying something called as a GST. Ultimate burden of that taxes is on whom? Consumer. You and I, right? From our pocket, on top of the goods value, we pay MRP. Right? We pay MRP. And MRP in bracket, it is written, including all taxes and duties. Right? That also has taxes. I pay this to whom? Directly government? No. I pay this to whom? I pay this to the seller, and seller pays this to the, that's your fundamental understanding. So impact and incidence, I would recommend you to copy this parallelly so that we can copy one point, learn that, and then go ahead. Difference between direct tax and indirect taxes. Done? I wanted to give you an example before I move to the next point. So is it impact and incidence or levy and collection of direct tax happen to be on the same person, but indirect taxes happen to be on different persons. Let's look at a small example to understand this. Okay, this is our main character. Mr. Raju, right? We'll take all of you into example, don't worry. So, Mr. Raju qualified to become a chartered accountant, CA Raju. He got placed in Infosys, and Infosys is paying him a salary of 10 lakh. My question, the moment he earns an income in the name of a salary, what taxes will be applicable to him? Income tax, because salary is one type of income that is subject to income taxes. Okay, there are multiple types of incomes which are subject to income tax. We call them as heads of income, right? We have salary, one type of income, house property income, profit from business or profession, capital gains that you make on transfers, and there are other types of income which we listed in a head called as other sources, right? 1, 2, 3 likewise I have listed there also. Miscellaneous sources you can think of. That's the thing. So this is one type of income that is subject to income tax. So he is earning 10 lakh rupees. On this 10 lakh rupees he is supposed to pay income tax. My question is, on whom this particular tax is levied? Who earns the income? Raju. Who pays the taxes? Raju. So I can say the impact of taxes and the incidence of taxes or levy of taxes and the payment of taxes is on same person called as Raju. Suppose Raju is your friend and he got placed in Infosys. What will you ask for? Treat. Okay, so the next moment Raju got the job. Raju and friends, they are going for a treat. Raju and friends, they went to KFC, okay, to ensure that Raju spent his first revenue, whatever income that he gets, salary should be spent on the treat to the friends. That is like a motto, being a friend, right? He should celebrate everything with his money. So, Raju and friends are buying bucket chicken. Okay, so he's buying bucket full of chicken. Now, so he's buying that, and what is the price that KFC is quoted for bucket chicken? 1,000 rupees, right? Apart from 1,000 rupees, when KFC is selling bucket chicken, which is food, KFC will also add something called as GST, which is what taxes, direct or indirect? Indirect taxes. So on the goods and services that is given by KFC will also add GST of 5%. So 1,000 rupees is the price, value for the bucket chicken or the food that he is purchasing. 5% on that would be 50 rupees. My question is, who takes the ultimate burden of these taxes? Consumer, being Raju and friends. So how Raju would remit this? Would Raju remit 1,000 rupees to KFC and take this 50 rupees goes to GST department? No, we don't do that. We pay entire 1,050 to KFC itself. And what KFC can do? How much KFC can keep with them? 1,000 rupees. 50 rupees needs to be paid to the government. Are you guys understanding? My question. Suppose this 50 rupees was not reached to the government's pockets or government's revenue. It has not come to the government's treasury. Government will catch whom? Will government go and catch the ultimate consumer or KFC? So who's liable to pay the taxes here? KFC is liable to pay the taxes. Now what KFC does? Will they pay from their pocket? No. What will they do? They will shift their burden to the consumer. This is the shifting that you were talking about. Are you guys understanding? You can shift your burden to the consumer. But in income taxes, can they shift? No. Raju earned the income, Raju only paid. Understanding? So ultimate burden of taxes is on the consumer, but the payment happens from here. So all the GST provision, whatever you learn as a GST provision, will it be applicable to the ultimate consumer, you and me, or will it be applicable to the sellers like KFC? Sellers like KFC. Are you guys understanding? That's why even though we consumed so many things, we never had to learn what is GST. We pay that money and then come back. Are you guys understanding? Now we are learning it for whom? For people like KFC, to advise them. We are learning it because we are professionals. Understanding? That's the objective that we have, right? So shifting of burden of taxes or impact and incidence being on two persons, that's a major difference that we have with respect to direct tax and indirect taxes. Understanding? Okay. Now look at the second differences that we can make. What is the basis for direct taxes? On what amount will I levy income tax? I will levy it on income. Even though I would say income, I would like to call it as profit. Because in every heads of income in your computation, income tax is asking you to look at the net amount that you are keeping after the income. Like say for example, even if you take house property, they say, I can make a standard deduction that you can have. Right? I will have certain deduction I can do. In salaries also, I will allow you to make some deduction. In business income, I'm creating a profit. In your transfer, I'm asking you to pay only on the gain. So I would say that the entire concept of income tax move towards taxing income tax on the income, but we call, by income we mean profit. On what value will I levy GST? When KFC is selling their food item, will KFC have to pay GST on the, whether KFC will pay GST on the food value or the profit earned by selling this? On what they will levy this 5%? On the value. This is the most important concept that we have. The basis for levying indirect taxes is not profit, it is something called as transaction value. Now I've taught you transaction value, believe me. Even if you go to any indirect taxes, like even when you go to customs and then learn customs in CA final level, they would say, on what value customs is levied? They would say transaction value. In GST also you go to valuation provision, they would say GST is levied on transaction value. What is the comparative benefits government gets out of this? Say, because of COVID pandemic, in India no company is making profit. What taxes government will not get? Income tax they will not get. However, even if nobody in India makes profit, on this transaction value, they will still end up paying GST. That's your major difference. Say for example, the example that we have looked into, we said bucket chicken was sold for how much value? Let's split this and then understand how much is the cost that is levied by KFC. KFC is levying a cost to sell it for 1,000. Their cost is 500 rupees. Their profit is 500 rupees. Suppose KFC decides promotional offer. Their inauguration day, they're deciding that this we will sell for 400 rupees. Will they make profit? No. If they are not making profit, will they pay income tax on this? No. But on this 400 rupees when they're selling it, will they have to pay 5% on 400 as GST? Yes. So even if nobody makes profits, they will still end up paying GST on what value? Transaction value. The basis is transaction value. Now I'm going to ask you an interesting question. This question is on double taxation. Have you heard of this term called double taxation? My question is, what is double taxation? Collecting tax on tax, or collecting tax on the same amount, on the same transaction from the same person 2 times. Right? This is called double taxation. My question is that income tax and GST, can I call it as double taxation on the same? Is there a double taxation between income tax and GST? No, it should not be there. No, that's a thought. Hey, that's not correct. There should not be. Now, since you are not confused, my objective is now to confuse you. Okay. Let's look at this. Look at this transaction that you have it on the screen. KFC is selling bucket chicken at what price? 1,000 rupees. What is the cost? 500. What is the profit? 500. When KFC makes a profit of 500, on this 500, are they liable to pay income tax? Yes. How did they derive at this 1000? 500 cost plus 500 profit, which means on this 1000, the 500 profit is also included? Yes. On this 1000, they are paying what? GST of 50, which means that this GST of 50 is GST on cost 25, profit 25. So can I say that on this profit, I paid income tax as well as I paid GST? Then it is double taxation, no? Why it is no? Correct. GST, they did not pay from their pocket. What did they do with GST? Collected from the customer, just passed it on. Are you guys understanding? So, is government collecting GST directly from consumers, or is government planning to collect GST from the seller from their pocket? No. Government wants to collect GST from consumer. Instead of directly collecting from the consumers, what am I doing? Indirectly collecting through the seller from the consumer. That's why we call this as indirect taxes. Are you guys understanding? Okay, that's the overall idea. With me? I will never have, okay, we can check this on different chapters. I will never have a double taxation between income tax and GST, because GST is always shifted. I will collect and then pay. This income tax is paid because I earned something called as income or profit. Understanding? Okay. Now let's go back to the other differences that we have, which are smaller differences. Have you guys learned this concept? Okay, so why don't we define this? Previous year, assessment year. What is a previous year? What is an assessment year? Previous year is the year in which income is earned. Okay. Assessment year is the year in which tax is paid. Okay. Very good definition. Now, which act has this, or which tax has this concept? Income tax has this concept called as previous year assessment year. But we do not have this concept of previous year assessment year in GST. We don't have the concept. I'll tell you why we don't have the concept. That's our important discussion. We don't have this concept. Why we don't have this concept is because, why do you need this concept of previous year assessment year? Now let me try to give you the fundamental understanding. Why question? Now, the entire concept of income tax says that whatever income that you earned for a financial year, full year, you pay only next year. Is it because government is so liberal? I don't want you to pay this year. Next year. It's okay. Is that so? Or government wants to. Will the government be happy if you pay in that year itself? Extremely happy. Because we have something called as a universal concept called as time value of money. Earlier I get, better it is. Government also says, if you can pay it in the same year itself, you pay. No problem. But in income tax, they are saying that whatever income you earn or whatever profit you make in a year, you pay income tax only in the next year. Why do you have this delay in payment of this income tax? Why are you paying only in the next year? Why? Because it's because of one particular reason that we have already learned. The basis of collecting income tax is profit. To understand what is my profit, I need to do something called as accounting. What is the periodicity in which every company in India will close their books of accounts? Monthly P&L account? No, we prepare it only annually. To prepare P&L account annually, I need to account the transaction that happens on 31st of March also. After doing this 31st of March transaction, my accounting principle says that you have to follow accrual concept. So I'll have to assess how much is payable, receivable, and create all that. Okay. Then I will have to prepare my profit. To do all this, after 31st of March, I'm already in April. That is the next year. Then only I can compute what is my profit. Only when I know what is my profit, I can pay income tax. So government, unfortunately, is not able to collect. So they said, we will bring a concept called as previous year assessment year. Previous year is the year in which you earned the income. I know that I want to collect it early, but I'm not able to do. I will collect it in assessment year. But the government is so sad. Why am I not able to collect it in the same year? So they said we will introduce a concept called as advanced taxes. Why don't you predict how much profit you'll make and give me something, please? Otherwise, I will charge interest from you. Are you guys understanding? So do you think income tax department does not want to collect the same year? No, they want to, but they are not able to. So we have that concept there. But look at what is the basis on which GST is collected. Is it on profit? No. On transaction value. For KFC, when will they know the transaction value of this sale of bucket chicken? As and when they create the bill. So if at all government wants, they can ask them to pay daily also. Because I know what is my transaction value. But government said daily is too much. I will do it monthly. So do I need the concept of wait for the entire year? No. For that particular month, the tax is collected in the next month. So that year's GST is collected in that year itself. So do I need the concept of previous assessment year? Not required. In some cases, government gives you an option to pay it on a quarterly basis. So we don't have the concept of previous year assessment year because tax is paid on a monthly or quarterly basis. The next, who gets the revenue of income tax? Which government? Central government. Who gets the revenue of indirect taxes? Both central government and state government. So, if you look at state government, GST is one of the major income that they collect. Which state government in India would be collecting largest GST? Maharashtra, correct. Then, controlling authority, all the administrating relating to GST. Which department will be doing that? CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. What will be the administrative authority for indirect taxes? Not CBIDT, it is CBIC. Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs. That's the name that we have. After GST, they changed the name from Excise and Customs to Indirect Tax and Customs. So all that we are learning from the notification, circulars, clarifications, everything is from this body called as CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs. The last point in our difference, after you copy so far, rates of taxes. What are the rates of taxes understanding that we have? My question is, are the income tax rate same for all persons? You have a definition in income tax called as persons. Persons include individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP, partnership firm, LLP, cooperative society, company, foreign company. You have a big list of people. Say, slab rate kind of a structure. Who gets this? Only individual gets this. If a company makes profit, will the company get slab rate? They won't get it, right? So, even the rate of taxes, the individual has a rate which is based on the slab, and then what happens to the slab as and when the income increases? It increases. So, first we can say that your tax rate in income tax will change when the person who is earning the income is changing. So, we can say rate of taxes in income tax is different from person to person. And income tax is structured in such a way that the one who is earning more income will pay more income taxes. There's a name for this method of collection. It's called progressive taxation. Now, let's compare that with indirect taxes. Will your indirect tax rate changes from person to person? No. It does not change from person to person, which means that if, say for example, if Mukesh Ambani goes and then buys medicine, as well as, okay, if I go and then buy medicine, or one of you go and then buy medicine, will the tax rate change? Hey, Mukesh Ambani, no, let me collect more. Will it change? No. It is same for all persons. It doesn't change between a company is buying, an individual is buying. What income level is there? Why it is not changing? Because in GST, the rate of tax is not fixed based on persons. It is fixed on what? Goods and services. When will your tax rate change? When you change the goods. From medicine, if you're buying another thing. Say instead of medicine, you're buying and you're getting services. The tax rate might increase to 18%. Medicine might be 5%. Are you guys understanding? Food might be 5%. So when the goods and services changes, your tax rate changes. Because in GST, tax rate is fixed on goods and services. It is not fixed on person. What is progressive? What is progressive taxation? The one who earns more income should contribute to the nation's growth more. They should be levied more taxes. That's the right method of tax collection, no? The one who's earning more income should contribute more. But in indirect taxes, that's not possible. Because if Mukesh Ambani is buying the same thing I am buying, he'll not contribute more. Are you guys understanding? Now, how can I make it progressive? That is not a progressive system. How can indirect taxes also go towards progressive system? What kind of goods and services should be fixed to higher rate? Luxurious goods and service will have a higher rate. This is a structure they built. Okay. Now let's look at what are the tax rate structure that we have. It is different from person to person. And it is same for all person because the rate is fixed on goods and service. If you want, you can write a note here. Luxurious goods are having higher rate. Okay. To make it sound like progressive. So that's our first set of learning. We can recap this and then take our first break. Done, everyone? Can we recap? Okay. So, what is that we have learned so far? We have learned what is taxes, why taxes, what are the government budgeting system, why taxes got improved after 1990s. Then we've learned one major point that's there in your books, which is difference between direct tax and indirect taxes. We will recap in this method. First time you're looking into your notes and then recapping. Second time when we recap, you're closing your books and then recapping. It's because our objective is that from classroom to examination hall. We should learn from here itself. Okay. So, I will tell you the basis. You tell me the differences. Right? Okay. First, examples. Examples of direct taxes. Indirect taxes. Okay. Now, the meaning of direct tax in terms of incidence and impact or levy and collection. Impact and incidence of income tax is on same person. Indirect tax is on different person. The basis of direct taxes, income in bracket, profit. Indirect taxes, it is transaction value. The concept of previous year and assessment year is therein. It is not therein because taxes are collected on a monthly or quarterly basis. The revenue share of direct tax goes fully to, indirect taxes goes to both central government and state government. Now the controlling authority for direct taxes, Central Board of, and indirect taxes, Central Board of. The rate of taxes for direct taxes, so we call this as a, for indirect taxes, because we fix it on To make it progressive, we will have higher rate for luxurious goods and services. Right? That's the structure that we have. With me? Okay. So I don't need a re-revision. You guys were solid with it. Okay. So we can now take our first break. Okay. Can we target a 20 minutes break? Okay. Yeah. I know that 10 minutes, 15 minutes will be the time that you will take to get out and get in. Right? So we'll target a 20 minutes break. That's our target. Let's see.